let's run it back. Seekers of the Storm comes out in just a few days. I think it comes out at this point in like 6 days. So let's try to get a few more item ideas out there. This time I've decided to add a few from y'all into this one. So we've got 5 more items from Druid, who imagined the items from the first video, and we've got 2 more ideas that y'all posted in the comments of the previous video. I think if y'all want to see a third video, go ahead and post your item ideas in the comments and I'll pick from some of those and showcase them. So this one was recommended by Remny4615. Spare gears, common. All drones gain 10%, 5% per stack extra damage. You know, one of the things I got from y'all on Gold Magnet was that the item was bad because it didn't do anything on its own. Gold Magnet being the item that increases the range of your pickups, Bandolier, Monster Tooth, etc. So I assume, as this one will also get the same level of scrutiny. The criticism is that it's a white common item, and these items act as like your base, and then you bolster and build up from there using modifiers that the green and red items provide. So would this make more sense as a green uncommon item? And then I would also expand the effect to also turrets, but not engineers turrets, just, you know, the ones on the ground that nobody uses? Or should it stay as is? Either way, I've always thought that drones in general needed a buff. I mean, they're pretty terrible as is, and this is why I play with that Better Drones mod, because drones are otherwise kind of useless. Anyways, this is an item that just makes drones better, but again, you have to have drones, otherwise this is useless. But I think drones are common enough that this could be a usable item. So let me know what y'all think. The next one here is Rubber Hammer. This is a common item. Every 5 seconds, your attack gains major knockback and 10% additional damage, 10% additional knockback force and damage per stack. This next one you might think, oh, it's that boxing glove from Risk of Rain Returns, and it's not quite. Boxing gloves is a 6% chance to get a 15% chance to knock back the enemies. I mean, I read this and it doesn't make sense. I mean, that's what the wiki says. The Rubber Hammer is a much more complex item. One of the things I got from y'all was to consider items that worked based on cooldowns. Well, here you go. It's a cooldown based knockback item. From what I'm seeing here, it's actually really good and could potentially have some really interesting synergies with the 10% increased damage. It also probably doesn't need to be said, but I would think this doesn't apply to bosses. Otherwise, it would be absolutely busted. Y'all remember Handy and his big off hammer? Like, his whole thing is to just push enemies off the map. The next one here is a lunar equipment. I haven't really done any of these so far. At the start of every stage, remove your equipment and gain a random aspect that can't be swapped out. But a boss enemy of the same elite type also spawns on that level. Again, last time we didn't mention any lunars. Y'all did say that maybe rotting steel should be a lunar. That was the item that made printers free, but also had a chance to lock you out and set your health to 1. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the downside of this item really isn't that big of a downside. I mean, aspects are so good, and yeah, I mean, I know the boss gets it, but is that really going to matter if you also already have one? Maybe to balance this one out, you might need to say that all bosses or all elites have the same aspect type. I just think if it's just the one boss, it's not a big enough downside to counter that crazy upside of having an aspect. The next one here is Tainted Chalice. This one's really fun. This is a Void legendary item. Reduces skill cooldowns on kill by 1 second. 1 second per stack. Yeah, that's really good. But using a skill does 10% max HP plus 5% self damage per stack as self damage. Corrupts all soulbound catalysts. So voids are always so much fun, and this is a void legendary. I love the idea of this item. It just seems like so much fun. You could almost put this into the lunar category as well. It seems like this item was really inspired by Rex, right? He's got a lot of attacks that when used also inflict self-damage. And similar to what I said in the last video, I'm all for making individual survivor skills or items available to everyone. What I will say that it feels like it fits the Void principles. It's not just a pure upgrade, it's an actual choice. That was another thing that y'all said in the last video. The second Void item we have here is Assassin's Kit. Deal 100% damage, 50% damage per stack to enemies that deal damage to you as crit. Corrupts all medkits. Assassin's Kit feels like less of a choice than Tainted I nearly said tainted salad. Tainted chalice, but I feel like it's balanced enough to actually work pretty well. The only thing I don't know is how often enemies are landing crits. I mean, does anyone know? I mean, obviously if it was like 50% crit chance the enemies had, this would be busted. But I guess it's infrequent enough to make this a good void item. I mean, I'm sure Druid knew when he made this. I know what y'all are going to say. I would always take Assassin's Kit. I would never take Medkit. But I think we've all had those runs where we aren't getting any healing items, so you might find yourself not taking Assassin's Kit just as often as you do take it, especially in those early runs. All right, let's get these last two out. We've got one here by The Robber 0601, and this is another fantastic item. Legendary. Isolation Chamber. 8% chance upon damaging an enemy, plus 8% per stack, to activate an on-kill item possessed by the player. Works on any damage, even if the enemy is not defeated. So this item, probably as written, 8% is probably busted. It feels like it would fit really well with the items and characters in this game. Being 8% upon damaging enemies, which I think would mean it would proc more often than on hit because it says any damage. I'd also wonder if ticks of gas count as one of the 8% and how it functions with bleed. If those do count as 8%, this is probably way too high because it would proc all the time. And you would just have these insane proc chains going non-stop. But anyways, I love the idea of this. If the robber is watching, maybe you could give some additional insight as to how you intend this to work. The last one I have here is an equipment item. This is going to be very simple. It's just a really massive pickaxe. Heavy pickaxe. Equipment. Swing in front of you with a strong melee strike for 3,000 damage. If this kills an enemy, they drop a gold nugget. 70-second cooldown. Really not a lot to say here. I'd kind of assume it's heavily inspired by Prion. You know, Prion impact does like 3,000 damage, but it's a really slow-moving projectile, and it's pretty rare that you actually get to hit the impact on the thing you want, unless it's like literally right in front of you. So heavy pickaxe is kind of just Prion that you would just spam if you're standing directly in front of an enemy. It's just really reliable, high damage equipment that's probably meant for melee characters because, again, you need to be pretty close to use this item. So guys, that is the next 7 items that we came up with. 5 of these are from Druid. 2 of them are from y'all. So again, if you had any item ideas out there that you want to have heard and talked about, please just post something down below. You know, tell me what your thoughts are on these items, which ones you liked, which ones you didn't like, where we can improve. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.